Hello and welcome to My Aspie Marriage, and this time I wanted to talk about our first counsellor. So in my parenting video I talked about how once I'd seen him being affectionate to the baby, I knew that there was something really drastic going on, something really different, really above my pay grade, as they say. And so we had been together by now for 7 years, and I said to him, we really need to see a counsellor or else I want to end the relationship. I didn't want to stay with him anymore if he was going to continue to be as explosive and aggressive and verbally abusive as he was. And he reluctantly agreed, mainly because I was threatening to end the relationship, I guess. And either way, whatever it was that made him go, we saw our first counsellor, Counsellor Geoff. And we saw him for maybe 8 months, I think, and maybe 2 times a month for that period. May have been longer, may have been 12 months. It's hard to say because it happened so long ago. I don't remember exactly. And Counsellor Geoff was interesting. He was good in that he was very logical, and for example, my husband would say to him, she's annoying, and Counsellor Geoff would say, everybody's annoying. This is how life rolls. There's not a single person out there who isn't annoying in some way, shape or form. That being said, he did really dislike going to counselling. He thought that the counsellor would be on his side, and he was constantly saying to the counsellor, if only she'd just housework better, if only she'd just do everything my way, follow my recommendations, do what I want, all would be well. And I would try to explain to him that nobody works that way. Nobody wants to be controlled. Nobody wants to do everything that they're told. And even Counsellor Geoff had said to him, look, if somebody was coming along and wanting to control you this way, would you like it? And he was saying no. But he still just wanted me to be under his thumb. And Counsellor Geoff wasn't saying, yeah, you're right, she just should be. And so it was really stressing him out. We would go to the sessions, and then in the car on the way home, he would be raging. He would be just driving along and just yelling and screaming and ranting and raving about the things that were discussed in the sessions. Like, how dare you say that, and how dare Geoff agree with you, and you've got it wrong, and if only, and da-da-da, and I mean, completely against the process. He wasn't there just going with the flow, taking it in, thinking, oh, okay, yeah, maybe Geoff's got a point. He was just straight up, kind of funny really, he really just thought that we would walk in there and the counsellor would just say, yeah, you're right, she's an idiot. And then point to me and say, you need to be doing everything his way. Why aren't you? You know. And it just didn't roll that way. And so it was this really kind of stressful and daunting process, to be honest. I mean, every single time we left that counselling session, I would have to sit in that car with him. And it was so awful. So awful. And then we'd get home and we'd barely be talking, and you'd kind of be thinking, what the hell are these sessions for? So it was super, super, super stressful. Yeah, he was so sure that we sucked because I just wasn't towing the line. And I knew we sucked because there was something else more drastic at play. Even if you take his aspiness aside, his rage, his temper, that yelling that he did, those fault findings, critiquings, the put downs, the insults, I knew that there was something bigger at play. And as much as he wanted to blame me for it, like, I'm raging at you because you're not keeping the house clean, or I'm raging at you because you're not doing things my way, or I've told you how to do it and you're still doing it your way. even though he was so sure that if I just did everything his way, all would be well, I knew there was something else going on. And I'd wanted to go to the counsellor for that counsellor to say, hey, there's something not quite right about how you're feeling, how you're being, how you're acting. I wanted the counsellor to say to him, you're wrong. Toe the line. Put your manners back in. But of course counsellors can't take sides, so Geoff wasn't actually saying things like that. He was trying to be diplomatic. And he never actually said, this temper thing that you're doing, there's something drastically wrong with that. He would have to be non-biased. So let me give you an example. And if you're on the spectrum, this will most likely be so triggering for you. And I can see how it would have been triggering for my husband, but nonetheless, I had a candle burning on a windowsill. It was in a room where the windows closed, the doors closed, there was no breeze, and it was a chiffon curtain, and I knew that without a breeze it was going to be okay. It was quite a broad windowsill as well, and the candle was well back. Hubby comes home and sees this candle in the windowsill and explodes because it's danger. It could catch fire. And yes, he's got a point. And this was the thing with our relationship. Yes, he has a point. The key issue was the delivery. He would get so explosive and start screaming and ranting and raving and just losing his temper. And there was no part of me that wanted to back down in that moment. No part of me wanted to go, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have left the candle on the windowsill. Because as soon as he started raging, I was instantly like, don't do that. There is no need for you whatsoever to be treating me that way, talking to me that way, losing your temper at me that aggressively, and speaking to me so rudely. Just calmly say, I blew the candle out, I really don't want you to keep it there. That was how I was wanting him to roll. And he was just this constantly aggressive person. So he would raise good points, such as don't leave a candle in a windowsill where there's a curtain. This is problematic. But his delivery was so extreme that there was no way I was just going to go, oh yeah, okay, you're right. Because for me, if I did that once, I would have to do it every single time he raged. And I was trying to figure out ways to get him to not rage. I knew that if I stopped doing that thing with the candle, there would just be other things that he would rage about, because there was. It was my daily existence with him. So I was kind of thinking, I can't just say, yes sir, 3 bags full sir. That would be problematic. I felt like that would give him more cause to rage. If I raged the first time and she backed down, then raging works for me. Do you see what I'm saying? And I wanted raging not to work for him. I wanted him to get to a point where you speak nicely. Speak like a normal human being. Talk to me the way that you would talk to anybody else out there. And that's a key thing as well. He never spoke like this to anybody else, ever, no matter what they did. He just reserved it for me. And I read this book once about happy marriages, and this woman in the book said, I feel kind of blessed when my husband rages at me or loses his temper with me, because it means that he feels safe enough around me that he can. And I don't even nearly feel that way about this. There is no part of me that has him raging at me and then I'm going, oh, I'm so loved. No chance. I just feel attacked and I want him to stop. I want him to calm the down. It's just that simple. Anyway, Counsellor Geoff did recommend to him that he do anger management because he did see that the anger was an issue. obviously when hubby's raging at me in the car and then we go to the next session, I'm telling Geoff that that happened. So he knew that anger was an issue. So he did recommend that hubby do anger management. And it took hubby a while, maybe 8 months later, after we'd finished seeing Geoff, and then we had this 8-month period of nothing. He did eventually do anger management, and he learned from that anger management that you have to step away from the situation. When you feel that rage build, get up, leave the house, go for a walk, go for a drive, go to a different room, move away from the situation. And so he started doing that, which was good, because prior to that he would follow me around the house. If he was raging and I'd be moving away and he'd be following me around the house, and then I'd end up going into a room and then locking a door and, you know, just to escape, or I would go outside and that would make him stop. So the anger management did help. He still raged and he still had his bad temper, but it did help in that he could then sort of reason within himself, I'm feeling this again, I better step away from the situation. So that was some good advice from Geoff. Some bad advice that we got from Geoff was, at the time we were living in my house, as I've mentioned, and for some reason hubby wanted to move out of that house. At the time he'd said it was too small, and he kind of made out that it was embarrassing to have his family and friends over and things. Though now he says that he wanted to move out to get a new house to make a better investment, which wasn't said at that time, but that's okay, neither here nor there. Geoff had said to me, you can't stay in that house forever. And then I was thinking, oh, am I being unreasonable by wanting to stay in this house that I've purchased, which is mine, and I'm doing it up and doing the garden up and stuff like this? Like, I had wanted it to be my forever home. And Geoff had sort of made out, you know, that I was being a little bit unfair, a little bit positional by staying. So we moved, eventually we moved into the bigger house. And as I mentioned in my housework video, this was when my housework war began, that giant 15-year battle. I'd wished so much that I just stayed in my house and just asked him to leave. Like, you go, leave me alone, please. That being said, of course, I didn't know moving into this bigger house was going to be the drama and the fight that it was. I had my suspicions that he would be a bit sort of critiquey, because he already was critiquey. However, I had no idea that it was going to get as wild and woolly as it did. So that's some advice that I sort of regretted taking from Counsellor Geoff. And I can't remember the exact reasons why we stopped seeing Geoff. I have a feeling that it was simply because hubby felt like things were going better and therefore we didn't need to. Or the expense of it was an issue, even though back then it actually wasn't that expensive. Not like counsellors are now. Nowadays the counsellors we see are about $180 an hour, which is, ouch, painful as. So back then it was far more affordable. So whatever the reason, I'm not sure, but we did eventually stop seeing our counsellor. And I'm not really sure that it was making a huge amount of difference anyway, because hubby never calmed down. He never got sweeter during that time or more pleasant during that time, and nothing was specifically said about his rage and his temper, aside from the recommendation of doing anger management. Nothing was actually said about what he was doing being a problem. And I can understand that Geoff was trying to find some middle ground, like maybe if you meet him halfway by not putting candles in a windowsill. However, Geoff didn't understand that even if I didn't put the candle in the windowsill, there were other things, constantly other things. So anyway, that was how our first counselling session went. It was kind of good in a way, and kind of not really amounting to much in another way. And how about yourself? Have you been to counselling and did it work for you? Did you find that your partner was fully against the process, or did they embrace it? Let me know below. Please share your comments and thoughts. Love to hear from you. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video.